Reynolds from Huntsville, Alabama. I just flew in yesterday from the conference out in Utah. And some of you know that I happen to be the chair of the conference, so you've probably seen too much of me already. But I'm coming here to tell you that the conference was a fantastic experience. It's been really fun to read and hear from those of you that were able to renew your vigor and vim for the program and your surrender to it, and for all of the different connections that were made and mastermind groups formed. It was just an amazing experience to be there with all of you. And we took the decorations down and we cleared out of the building, and the committee, those of us that were together, we said, it went great. There wasn't one glitch. And so we decided to just celebrate and go out to dinner. And then we got the word that my presentation, the video recording, did not work. And so here I am coming to you on video to let you know that they were able to record the audio, and that there's over 45 slides, and you're going to be able to see everything everybody saw and hear everything that they heard. And I hope you'll be able to just sit back and allow the Spirit to kind of work in you and find those little gems that might be helpful to you in your program. And we'll see you on the other side, but I hope you enjoy, and that I'm sorry that it didn't work. It made me sad too, but I'm grateful to all of you for all your help and your support and your service, and wasn't it a wonderful weekend? So sit back and enjoy, and here we go.
I'm excited to welcome everyone here and to welcome and introduce our Wendy. She's authentic and energetic and loves to bring people together, and we have seen that for sure this weekend. She has a powerful testimony of her Savior and loves to share her journey to help others. And anyone who is an introvert like me needs to find an extrovert like her. Please welcome Wendy Reynolds.
Welcome to this breakout, and this is where we're going to talk about deepening our spiritual path and doing the inner work of recovery. My name is Wendy Reynolds, and I come to you as a recovering food addict, a 10 plus on the susceptibility scale, and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I identify as a Christian, as a woman of faith, and as a bright line eater. I don't represent bright line eating. This is just my own thoughts and feelings about the recovery process. So let's start out today, by talking about puzzles. This is Charlie and Robert, two of my grandkids, and they do not like puzzles. They would rather play video games all day. So these pictures are from back in November, and we call this in our home forced family fun. So we start out with a big messy pile of puzzle pieces, and the first task is turning all the pieces over so we can try to make sense of the chaos. Papa tries to teach them how to sort and do the straight edges, build the borders, but Robert and Charlie both gave up about halfway through, and my husband and I ended up finishing the puzzle. But one little funny note was Robert had taken one of the little puzzle pieces and put it in his little jean pocket and took it home. He thought that would be funny. Have you ever lost your last puzzle piece? Yeah. So we spent 3 days looking for the magic puzzle piece, and his mom made him bring it back and apologize for what he did. So, which leads us to my story. It's difficult to summarize a life of food addiction, isn't it? I don't ever remember not being a food addict. And I remember being very young and stealing from my brothers and sisters Easter baskets and Halloween candy. And in 5th grade is when I first started my first diaries or journals and writing promises to God, because I could relate so much. And I've heard so many of us that had to stand on the dang scale in 5th grade. And in California, it's because it was called Junior Olympics, and they put us in group A, B, or C, C being the heaviest. I was the shortest, but I always ended up in group C. And that was so confusing to my 10-year-old mind, how I was with the tall giant people and I was the short one because I was bigger. It went only by weight, not by height. So I digress. That was not in my notes. Obviously, I have work to do over that still. So I flipped back and forth between dieting and binging and stealing and stealing did anybody steal their roommates? I'm going to digress again. Did any of you steal food from your roommates in college? Then I would have to ditch class to go replace what I stole. And I didn't do so well in the classes that I was ditching. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I didn't know how to fix myself. I tried diuretics, laxatives, therapy, hospital classes, gyms, trainers, books, videos. I did lots of weight loss competitions. That was the cruise director doing that. I would get all the neighbors in and put money in a pot. And yeah, I never won. Well, I did win. They all quit and I had their money, but I didn't win because I won.
I even wrote a letter to Oprah begging for her to help me, and she didn't write me back. So no matter what I tried, I couldn't stop eating. After I married and had children, I ended up in a 12-step program for food addiction. Guess what? No flour, no sugar, weighed and measured meals 3 times a day. And I experienced years of recovery and years of relapse. At one point, I lost 120 pounds, ran a couple of marathons, was in my right size body for about 3 years. But I had no idea how to maintain it. I'm so grateful for this program. We have ways to maintain our weight loss. I eventually topped out in an obese body at 260 pounds with a mind that answered to every call for more food. In 2019, did it change? Did I change slides? Nope. There we go. In 2019, I was in complete bondage once again. I was a pile of jumbled puzzle pieces with no plan, no vision. We had left California for Alabama, moving me away from my support system, and I was now dabbling in keto and had gone back to therapy for the 100th time. But I was in full-blown addiction, and I was growing out of my latest sizes. My ankles were swelling. I'm diabetic, and my readings were in the 400s. There were so many nights that I would wait for my husband to go to bed and then binge until midnight. It could only be till midnight because I was going to start the next day. If I went to 12:01, then I was already binging on the next day. But I'd go to bed and my heart was pounding so hard that I was afraid I would die during my sleep. Can anybody relate to that? I know that sounds dramatic, but I honestly thought I might not live. There was only one big lie. I know we have lots of lies and broken thinking. I only had one, and I only needed one because it worked every time. I'm going to eat everything I want today because I'm going to start over tomorrow and I'm going to get it. And that one worked. It always works. It still works, even when I break in bright line eating. I don't break for 1 meal or 1 hour because I got to get it all in because tomorrow I'm going to get it right. Then one day, we all use the same picture. Everyone I'm in, we all have this one cute picture of Susan. I ran across Brightline Eating from a Facebook post, ordered it on Audible, like so many of you, and I listened to it 3 times that summer. And probably like many of you, my heart was really pricked, and I could tell something was different. I felt like God was laying this right in front of me. I had never heard of it. I didn't know anybody that had done it. And I was ready. The science of brain healing is what I'd been in 12 steps for 30 years. So I understood kind of that recovery model, but I did not understand automaticity and, you know what I mean? The willpower gap and the depletion and all those things. And sorry, but Susan Pierce Thompson speaks my language, right? You guys, when she's talking or whatever, and I kept watching these videos of her and I'm like, who is this lady? So I had to go to my husband and say, you guys can relate to this one last time. Honey, I need $500 for something called a boot camp. And it's called Brightline Eating. Like, it's not even cool, is it? But I just had that flicker of hope. I didn't know if it would work, but I had that little flicker of hope. So back to puzzles for a minute. This is Charlotte. She's 6. She lives in Virginia. When I'm with Charlotte, we do a puzzle a day. She approaches them with intention and a plan. She sorts the colors. She finds the straight edges. She refers to the picture on the box often. She begins with her borders and fills in the middle, and she loves placing that last piece. She always wants to take a picture at the end. She's all in. She never walks away, and she gets the puzzle building process. For my birthday in April, her family bought me, never seen them before, a big puzzle table that's on a swivel with drawers for the magic pieces. Yeah. So she's my puzzle friend. So recovery is like a puzzle. We lay out the borders first, which give us our boundaries or our box to work within. And there are always a few pieces that don't make sense, but we have to just set them aside and be patient, know that we'll find where they go. Some pieces fall on the floor, but we don't give up and just throw the whole puzzle away. Each puzzle piece is unique. Some kind of look alike. If you've ever tried to cram 2 puzzle pieces together, sometimes we force things in bright line eating and it doesn't feel right and we have to pull them apart. It takes patience and focus to build a puzzle. With BLE, the puzzle pieces started coming together for me. And it has taken work and intention and making mistakes. I had to stop comparing my puzzle making skills, with your puzzle making skills. Not ready to do that yet. All along the way, I've invited other people to help me build my puzzle. I've invited second set of eyes. You know, when you can't find that one piece and you've looked and looked and you say, can you see if you can find that? And they walk right up and go, it's right there. Yeah, so that's why we need each other, is to help point out the puzzle pieces that we can't find. I've also learned to step aside and take a breather when I'm feeling overwhelmed and being patient with myself. Probably most important is not comparing my puzzles with your puzzle making skills. That one's important. My personal recovery has been bumpy and messy, but I never stopped or gave up or threw it all away. I've never even once thought of leaving Bright Line Eating. I don't believe we can leave before the puzzle comes together. And if we trust this plan and lean into each other, it will come together. I am blessed to be married to my high school sweetheart for 40 years. We have 6 married kids and 23 grandkids. I have lost 115 pounds. They all ran a half marathon with me for my 60th birthday. I can sit on the floor with my grandbabies and I can participate in a big, wonderful life. Instead of watching from the sidelines, and you guys know what that means. We watch life from the sidelines when we're active in our addiction. And we are 37 strong and I would do anything for them, but they are like everybody else. When you pull back the public curtain, then we see what we all have struggles, you guys. We have, in my family, we have addiction, we have depression, we have loss of job. In your families, you might have sickness and disease and the loss of a loved one. We have so many things behind that curtain, but we're just going to focus on food addiction today. I have struggled with a binge eating disorder my whole life, and food addiction, you know, it can really hijack us, hijack our brains, but I mostly feel like it hijacks my spirit. I'm such an extrovert. Whenever I take the test, there's like no introvert in me. I am all the way to the one side. Break my lines. Who's in my Getting Games team here? They all have to come on after 3 or 4 days and go, hey, Wendy, where are you? Because I just leave all of you. So for me to break my lines, it breaks my spirit too. So I stand before you as a regular and perfect daughter of God who has spent a lifetime trying to overcome this weakness that has been crippling to my mind, my body, and my spirit. I hope you'll allow me to humbly take you on this journey with me today and share with you some of the things that I've learned. So the first thing I want to do is start with our bodies. Our bodies are important. You know, it's where we feel our cold and our hunger, and we get our DNA from our bodies if we're able to move or hike, and it's where addiction gets us. And if we feel tired or sleep, our sexual desire, our aging, our wrinkles, our saggy skin, it's all there, all inside of our body. But it's pretty important, isn't it? Our bodies are important to this Bright Line Eating journey, and this is where we experience, I don't know, sometimes we experience like the body's in charge, right? The body rules. If we're hungry or tired or, well, I'm a whiner. I was just whining about the stairs. Sorry, whoever I crossed in front of, saying I hate stairs. And then they looked at me like, be positive. You're not in here, I'm sure. And I'm like, sorry, I'm a whiner. I just whine. So when I'm tired, you're going to hear about it. When I'm hungry, you're going to hear about it, because sometimes I let my body rule. But our bodies are only a part of us. They are not all of us. They are not who we are. We will never find peace and happiness if we focus our journey solely on what we eat and how much we weigh. This is from Susan Pierce Thompson. A food controller-led program helps us lose weight, but it does not allow for long-term peace and healing. You can clap. Yay, Susan. We often call this, when we are focused just on our body, diet mentality, where we're hyper-focused on the number on the scale instead of the healing in our brain or in our spirit. But treating our bodies with respect by following this plan is critical. And that's why we have the 4 bright lines. There's no recovery without them. This is our new normal. This is the foundation for recovery. And if I am not eating bright, I am rude and mean and ornery. I can't even listen to you. I have no patience. So yeah, this is a little side note. My Getting Games team knows this. I just sent that new friends and family video out. It's on YouTube and it's only 2 weeks old. And I sent it to my husband, my children, and not my grandkids, and my in-laws. And I asked them all, I said, this is a big ask. It's 30 minutes long. Please watch this. Send that video, message me if you don't know how to get to it, to your friends and family. And it's Susan Pierce Thompson explaining what this is, how to support us, what addiction feels like. And it was so wonderful to get the responses back from my kids. One of my kids is a doctor. He's an anesthesiologist, and he's the one I wanted so bad for him to validate me. The girls all did. And he comes back and goes, so glad you found something that works for you, Mom. I'm like, no. I just really wanted him to say, this is medically awesome. Let's see. Let's take a look at our minds next. This is where this is where my addiction lives, in our thoughts and our judgments. It's where we take courses with Bright Line Eating and we learn new things. We take in knowledge. It's where we build our careers. It's often where we write our own stories, good and bad, in our minds. We compare ourselves to others and make judgments. It's where we learn knowledge. We have those aha moments. Sometimes we think our mind is in control, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that soon. But this is where we often have to battle the hardest with our thoughts, with this food addiction. So we can process things, we can meditate, we can ponder, we can have aha moments. For me, this is where sometimes we feel it in here and sometimes it comes into our mind. For me, when I'm listening to the accountability call, I might hear something and say, that's interesting. That sounds good. Maybe I'll check that out and see if that's something for me. So it's where we process things. It's also in our minds where we have these conversations in our head about, I'm going to have one after this weekend, I'm sure. What happened, what I think happened, what they said happened, what I should have said, what I think they said happened. You know what I mean? And that it's just that swirling thing. And we have to quiet it down. What do? Yeah, we reach for food. And I explained that last night. I have been to so much therapy trying to fix my brain, thinking that would fix my body. And it always comes down to one core thing. I'm not good enough. It always comes down to that. So I'm always trying to be good enough so I won't want to eat, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Addiction thrives and lives in broken thinking. And it's in these old ways of doing things that those neural pathways run pretty deep. So there's lots of great resources out there to help with the thinking. Remember, we're just talking about the mind. I love being a subscribed member of Bright Line Eating. I love the courses. I love all of it and can't get enough. And I learned about a lot of these books from Susan Pierce Thompson and listening to the podcasts and reading the books. And so like whoever talked about it today during Joanne's talk this morning, it feels like a freaking part-time job. So I need to tell you that I'm retired and I don't work because my daughters always say, Mom, you just have so much time. So I'm saying to you, I do. So those of you that work, be easy on yourself. I can just do Bright Line Eating all day if I want, and I do. So just put it into your life, into your box the way it works. But I love this from C.S. Lewis. You're embarking on something that is going to take the whole of you. And you know what? It does. So this leads me to what we're going to talk about today, the final kind of puzzle piece for me. This is Laura. And 2 years ago, God sent me Laura. Oops, got to bring God and Laura back in. Together, we began the greatest study of our lives, right, Laura? 2 years. We had no idea where we were headed with that first phone call. This is what I tell my kids. I'm like, I'm talking to Laura. She always has to tell her husband, I'm talking to Wendy. And that's when my daughters say, you have a life of leisure, Mom. Call me when you're done. So just put that in a box too. We knew we wanted to go deeper. We wanted true inner healing. And up until this point, I loved my Bright Light Eating journey. I was losing weight. I was mostly bright. I was looking for more than just weight loss. And I knew it would be a spiritual path because I'm wired that way. Together, we searched every book and article we could find about healing through the power of God. We went through a ton of books and scriptures and articles. We lost ourselves in daily phone calls and study Monday through Friday. We didn't do it on the weekends. So many of our calls ended up in tears and saying, do you feel it? It's happening. Can you feel something happening? And I know before that, I had always wanted a burning bush. You can tell. I wanted to be Moses or something. And my husband and I just started watching The Chosen a few months ago. And I'm not kidding, this happened. We're watching the part where the lady with the issue with blood reaches out and touches the hem and she's like healed instantly. And I paused it. And I said to my husband, that story makes me so mad. You know what I mean? Instantly healed. Do you know how long I've been trying to fix this freaking food addiction? And she just reaches out. So I'm impatient too. But so what I learned for me and Laura, that the answer to my struggle, my binge eating disorder, was not going to come from just making healthy food choices for my body or from reframing my thinking. Those things are so important in our journey to food addiction, but I knew it was going to be different for me. And so Laura and I learned that God was teaching us something, and here we come. This is the point of all of this, that we had to strengthen our spirits and strengthen our centered selves. And we'll go into that now. So we'll talk about the spirit. This is that place, and you know when you're there and when you feel it. It's where you feel love, you feel peace and calm, you feel connected to God and other people, you feel that charity that you want to serve and reach out and guide and connect with people. That's where you feel resilient and faith and hope, inspiration. You guys, this is where Susan Pierce Thompson, this is the place she was in when she heard the voice say, write the book and call it Bright Line Eating. I am so grateful to Susan for listening to that voice and writing the book, because that's what brings us here together. It's giving and curious and humble, but it's still in charge. It's a divine power to overcome, and we can feel it and we know when we're there. I went a little bit too far. Do you all feel like you know what it feels like when you're in that place? It takes a while to kind of practice and learn what it feels like. Most of us know what it feels like when our parts are in charge, right? It's kind of chaotic and we're responding and reacting, and we almost can feel ourselves doing it. And I've done that out on the walking trail. Kelleen, are you in here? I can't see that far, but yeah. And I'll be on the walking trail and talking to Kelleen about something, and she'll go, Wendy, calm down, take a breath, find your center. I'm like, because it takes a lot to learn to do that. So I know when I'm not in it, and I'm learning better and better how to return to my center and get there. So we're not going to heal just from our brains, just from our bodies, and with our thinking. We heal from consistent day in, day out actions that strengthen our center or our spirits. I love this quote. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. We are free to choose, okay? That is the theme of this conference. We are choosers by nature. So we have to ask ourselves, which part of me is making the choice in this moment? When I'm hot and tired and complaining and hungry, and I react in a certain way that I regret, which part of me is in charge at that moment? Who's driving the bus? When I am actively choosing to get a little more or to even binge, it feels like it's not me, like somehow my addiction has taken over and hijacked my agency. So here's the main point of this workshop. What I have learned and what I'm trying to share with you is I have had to learn to strengthen my chooser. I had to learn to strengthen my center and my spirit so that when I'm making choices for my spirit, I'm not just reacting from my mind and my body. It is difficult and it's not easy to access. But when we are choosing from this place, you'll recognize some of these thoughts. When we are in this place, we can tell ourselves it's going to be okay. Nothing has gone wrong. I am enough. I did the best I could. I can do hard things. This just might work. Being unstoppable is not about being perfect. This is one of my favorite quotes by Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, a little space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. There is a small but very significant change that comes when we respond from our spirit, from our highest self, rather than from our mind or our body. And in this space, it's a divine space given to us. And in that space, we have the freedom to choose our response in that moment. And for us, that usually means between eating and staying bright. So what do we do to grow that space? So let's go back. Let's build a puzzle. You guys are going to build a puzzle with me. These are the 4 sides of my puzzle, my recovery puzzle, that have really helped me strengthen my spirit. Daily habits, true connection, surrender, and trusting God. So we're going to start and go through these. The first one, daily habit stacks build identity and strong guardrails. I would say out of all the things I've learned in Bright Line Eating and in my life and in mine and Laura's studies, that this thing is by far the most healing, the most helpful that I've received and received the greatest reward from. Daily habit stacks are intentional habits that we build into our mornings and our evenings, things like prayer and exercise, meditation, making your bed. You guys might make it on your own. I only make it because I get to check it off my box. Gratitude list. These are daily actions that nurture us. My personal daily routines give me strength. They help me grow. They help me remember, and they are daily for a reason, because I need to be, I don't need new stuff, but I need to be reminded. So every day I need a scoop of God and I need a scoop of bright line eating so that I can remember how to do this thing. James Clear, don't we love him? The author of Atomic Habits. It is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small decisions on a daily basis. We are not robots. We are human beings. So the practice of our daily habits, they will look different, but the structure of our daily habits do the same thing for all of us. They keep us disciplined, they keep us safe, and they nurture us. They are a buffer between us and what's happening out in the world and how we respond. And we don't want to respond by eating and breaking our lines. So I think it's really important for recovering addicts, and I identify as an addict, to have robust, nourishing daily habits so that when life gets crazy and our parts are driving the bus, we are able to the stronger our center becomes, it's easier to get there because we recognize what it feels like when we get there. And I believe that daily repeated actions are what change our identities, not bursts of energy, not big, huge goals or public pronouncements on social media. I had a 12-step sponsor that used to always say to me, Wendy, sweeping change comes from the sum of small decisions made daily. So it's the adding up of these habit stacks. Burning bush experiences are exciting. They catch our attention, which is great, but they don't carry us for the long haul. This is about automaticity and healing the brain, not about fireworks that fizzle. This is a quote from Susan in Resume. The longer I travel on this recovery journey, the more I choose to focus on my actions, almost to the exclusion of all else. I care how my thinking is and I care how my feelings are, but I know that the driver of my recovery is my actions. Connecting with people that we love and trust, that's what this is about this weekend. We cannot go through this bumpy life without each other. I love the solitude of, I walk 5 miles every morning on this beautiful greenway trail near my house. And I love being alone and being outside with God, but God knows that I need connection and I need people. And that having that love and trust is critical to the healing process. So I hope you can find your person. Hope you can find your person that you can be open and vulnerable with. Hope you can find your person that is your true person that nurtures you and you can be yourself with and you can really share things with and cry with and walk with them, and they can be that person that fits your puzzle piece, kind of helping you along on the path, not necessarily be the Band-Aid to it, but somebody that will cry with you, love you, and point you towards God. My favorite connection, the kind that nurtures me the most, and I do love people, but I love the one-on-one the most. One-on-one phone calls, one-on-one text, one-on-one Marco Polo, that really nurtures me. Because, you all get it. Aren't you tired of trying to explain it to other people? And then you get that kickback or whatever. Like my son, glad you found something that works for you, Mom. You know what I mean? I wanted more than that. We get each other. I've asked Laura to come up and talk for 2 minutes on true connection and what that means to her in her process, in her journey.
Well, this is the only negative thing about having a close friend who's an extrovert, because they make you do uncomfortable things. So my first connection in BLE was an unofficial Gideon Games. And then I had a few more. And then I joined a mastermind group and we met once a week and we talked about how we were doing and we set goals. And I would have said that we had true connection. And then I met Wendy, and I don't know how, we were trying to figure out how our relationship started, but somehow it did. And I learned what true connection was. And here are a few things that I learned from understanding what true connection is. Trusting others with our vulnerability, sharing wins with each other and listening or feelings of defeat and disappointment. Encouragement that gets us back on plan faster. Never feeling judged, but validated. Being excited to share an aha moment. caring about and praying for a team member's dad, calling out your friend when you know they are not in their centered self, thinking of ways to support your friend hours after a Marco Polo. When you're in a party, texting in the bathroom, when you're tired of watching everybody around you eat not my food. Seeing the best in each other. True connection is being grateful for your food addiction because of the people you've met in Bright Line Eating. Once I experienced true connection, I was able to reach out and trust others with my personal story of food addiction that has plagued me my whole life. I learned it was okay to just be me, and I didn't have to pretend to be perfect for others to accept me. This was the beginning of my healing. I realized God loved me right now, imperfections and all, and I didn't need to do this alone. Someone you have true connection with listens and validates you, and then turns you towards Christ because they know that is where true healing takes place. True connection creates a safe place to be transparent. It's a powerful feeling to share with someone you thought you were all alone in and find that others have struggled with this same thing too. When I started my Bright Line Eating journey, it was only to lose weight. And now I realize it was so much more. It was a journey of healing.
I love my introvert Laura. I said the third side, but I don't see the third side. Where is it? Oh, there's the third side. The third side of our puzzle. This one's a bit tricky because they're surrendering to the program of Bright Line Eating, and then they're surrendering to God. And that was kind of a conundrum for me because I'm like, but if I surrender to the program and Susan Pierce Thompson and all these teachings, and then God's over here. But I tried to do the surrender to God thing and just kind of pray it away, and that didn't work. So this is how I was able to justify, I don't know what the word is, but makes sense for me and in my heart. I said, do I feel like God, is this what he wants me to do? Yeah. So if this is God's will for me, then I can surrender to God, and they go together. So that's how I was able to get to that. But this thing is, I got to do better at this. So what does surrender look like? This is from the book Resume. I think it's from Resume. Surrender is a magical word in Bright Line Eating. It describes what happens when we have no resistance to doing the plan as described, no resistance to committing food, no resistance to weighing and measuring, no resistance to reaching out for and providing support. The weight melts off of us, the food becomes neutral, and we start to feel freedom. So it feels like relaxing, taking a breath, and leaning into the program. So this is what an imperfect journey looks like. This is my chart starting in August 2019. Each of those upticks is a visit to the ditch. It's never quantities for me, although I might lie and say that, but I am always just jumping right in. It's accompanied with shame, embarrassment, weight gain. I was trying lots of recipes and sexy food, and I thought I was different than you and I could do Diet Coke. For a long time, I thought that. I also thought I could handle nuts and Triscuits, flavored water, all that stuff. And I was giving lots of gifts of NMF. I still wanted to be able to do that, and that wasn't good for me. For many of us, this is what the recovery process looks like. It looks like this journey up here. We try, we falter, we keep on trying. The path is not linear, not even close. But the one thing I was consistent with was walking this journey with God by my side, which usually meant he sent me a little angel along the way to help me. And one of those angels in my journey has been Colleen Facer. Can you even see back there, Colleen? Your little face is up there. She's been my constant through so many ups and downs and pain in this journey. I think I talked her ear off for a solid year about why I can have Diet Coke and handle it. And for those of us that struggle, we need a constant friend. She said, okay, try it. She just let me. And yeah, that didn't go well. So I know I've shared this on social media and with people that I guide, but I'm going to share it again here because this was a huge turning point for me and it had a profound effect. 2 years ago this month, I attended the first Brightest in Utah conference and listened to Genevieve Lavender Campbell bear a powerful testimony about her own surrender and willingness to finally give diet soda and some other non-compliant things to God. I was so moved by her words. I walked out of that room changed and willing, and I reached out to her and said, help me. And she made a Marco Polo, and I transcribed what she said. If you are holding on to anything in your life that is holding on to the addiction, then you're not fully surrendered. Your brain is going to go back to the addiction when it's hard. Examples, and she listed them: gum, diet soda, mock NMF, flavored water, French fries, tortilla chips, drive-throughs, bringing NMF home, or giving it to others. When you let go of those things that you were holding on to, the addiction goes to sleep and your brain stops offering it to you. I was holding on to 3 things: Diet Coke, flavored water drops, and giving NMF to gifts to other people. Genevieve gave me the courage to finally surrender my last 3 strongholds, and I am forever grateful. You will know when you're completely surrendered. You will know that you're completely done with something when you give it up and you feel freedom instead of loss. And I love the freedom that comes from each surrender as we kind of go along on this path. I have noticed something. This is my own little ideas from listening to accountability call. Joanne is in here. Hi, Joanne. I didn't even know you were sitting there. No, that's because now I'm going to quote Joanne's things that I learned, and I just saw her pink shirt. So what I did is I listened to, over the past few months, I listened to whenever I could find somebody that talked about their surrender. And I came up with my own 3 categories. You ready? The light switch surrender. It's that person that they've been in the ditch, they learned whatever happened to them before Bright Line Eating, the light switch goes off and they surrender completely. It doesn't mean it's easy for them. It just means they're ready, they're prepared, and they stay bright from day one. And it looks easy, but they still have to go through the same process that all of us do. The second one I would call, let's see, I want to say what I wrote down here for the second one. They get bright. They love Bright Line Eating. They lose some weight. They post on Facebook. They feel good. And you know what happens? It gets struggly, and they go out and they do some research experiment. They gain weight. They come back to the program humbled, ready to do it differently this time. And so then they have a light switch surrender, or my kind of surrender. I'm in that third group, the last category. My surrender has been in increments. Some of the things I have given up have claw marks all over them. But every day I try to get on my knees and ask God for strength, and then get up and chop those dang vegetables. I think it's a spiritual act for me, though. I hate chopping so bad. So sometimes when I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, God, okay, I'm doing this. Just let's be patient and do this together. It's been a real surrender, a real process for me of letting go. It's been just like this gentle journey of just leaning into the program and trusting it, letting things go along the way. I want you to know that all 3 of these paths are surrender, and we don't have to compare our paths to anybody else. I spent 3.5 years in Bright Line Eating comparing myself to the light switch surrender. But you know what? I'm not. I'm the gradual surrender. And we get to honor everybody in the path and what it looks like. And we can't change the process, can we? We just embrace it. And we honor everybody for whatever surrender path that they are on. So how do you know if you're in surrender? These are also from accountabilities and vlogs and things that I listen to. And these are just some of the things that I not came up with, some of the things I wrote down. You're not fighting or making excuses. You feel safe and protected. You're in a place of neutrality, even when you're surrounded by a bunch of NMF at work. Your foundation is trust, not fear. Sorry, I went too many. Fear is not a foundation of recovery. It's not. You're not white knuckling it. I think many of us that have tried things maybe in 12-step or whatever and had mean sponsors, we like white knuckle because we don't want to get in trouble. And that's not surrender, that's compliance. You're not looking for loopholes or exceptions. And if the food struggle comes, this is the point of this workshop. You're able to take a breath, make a call, do whatever you need to do to let go of old thinking, return to your center, and make the next right choice. We have to learn to do things a new way. And I think when we strengthen our center, we're given that divine space to make that new choice. Let's see. You do have that divine space. I forgot that last one. Trust in God. We can't do this alone. Several years ago, our family backpacked into Havasu Have any of you ever been there? It's down in the Grand Canyon. Yeah. So my husband and I and our 6 kids, we had one that was going off on a mission. So we said, let's do one grand thing before our family dynamic changes. So we all went down into the Grand Canyon, well, it's Havasu Have. And I was in okay shape. I was in a 12-step program. I had lost 75 pounds. So I thought I was all that. But I had about 40 pounds still on me. with a backpack, and we took our whole family down into the canyon for 4 days. It was one of the most amazing experiences our family had had as we, if you've been there, you're hiked to all the different falls and swim and play. It was a wonderful experience. We started at the top of the rim at midnight when it was dark, and my husband had a light. We sang songs and followed him down the trail, miles down into the Grand Canyon. And after 4 days, it was time for us to hike out of the canyon. And we got up at sunrise. Well, the sun wasn't quite up. It was like 5 a.m. It's hot. It's in Arizona. And we started the ascent up out of the canyon. And I was okay for like 7 or 8 miles because you're down in the bottom of the canyon. But I had not seen what I was going to be climbing up because we came down in the dark. And I remember getting to the bottom and looking up at that thing that I had to climb up. And my husband was taking the kids and they were going on up. And I was getting further and further and further behind. And I was so hot and I was so tired. It's like 3 miles up switchbacks getting out of that canyon. And they were gone. They were up there. And I couldn't stop. I didn't know anyone behind me, and I didn't know where they were ahead of me. I had to keep going, and it took everything for me to keep going. And then all of a sudden I saw our oldest, Adam, running down the switchbacks. And he came and brought me a cold bottle of water, and he took my backpack from me. And he said, "Come on, Mom, I'll help you up." He lightened my load. I needed help. I couldn't get out of that canyon. And I think that's what I want you to know is know when you need help. Know when you're not going to make it. We need to trust God, your higher power, your Getting Games team, but we're not meant to travel this journey on our own. I need God's power. Whoops, I got to go back to Chosen. I need God's power in my life. I cannot do this without him. Every night in my journal, I write how I saw God in my life that day. I look for him. I turn toward him, and I'm grateful to him. He is my foundation because I know that I can't serve two masters. I can't do God and food at the same time. I shut down when I break my lines. So I choose him, and I get to do this with his arms wrapped around me, cheering me on. He invites each of us to turn towards him. He knows everything about you. He sees you clearly. He knows you as you really are, and he loves you today and always. Now that we have our 4 borders in place, I'm going to take these last few minutes to just fill in the puzzle for you really quick. These are just 9 nuggets that I've learned along the way to fill in my puzzle. The first one is no magic bullet, no magic puzzle piece. I think so many times we want it to be, but it's not. The pieces come together somehow, and we stand back and we start seeing patterns in our lives that work, and the puzzle starts filling in, but it's not magic. It's day-to-day action that builds on each other. Did I do number 2? Here comes number 2. A few months ago, number 2, our mastermind group was going through grit, and we were talking about BFF. Everett talks about that. Breathe. Is it find your body, feel your feet, or feel your body, find your feet? I always get them mixed up. And we were talking about that in our mastermind group, and I said something's missing for me, and I added a T to it, and I said, you guys, I think this is what I needed, BFFT. So now it's turn to God. I just need that little extra thing in there. So once I can calm down, I added the T to turn to God, and it helps me return to my center. Okay. Checking boxes gets a bad rap. I was going to show you guys my journal. I didn't bring it up, but I'll tell you about it. So, I love my daily habit stacks. I love checking boxes. In fact, I had Vanessa, who did your workbooks. Vanessa did a journal for me, and I told her exactly how I wanted it and what I wanted in it. And it has my habit stacks, my food, everything, all in this cool little journal. And she'll design you your own. So she sent it back to me, and I said, nope, it doesn't have boxes. So I made her add boxes all the way along, because I think sometimes we always say we need to do it all for the right reasons. But you guys, sometimes just checking boxes for me on a struggly day keeps me in the game, and it keeps me going, even though it's not the highest reason to be doing my habit stack. So I check boxes, and I own the love of it. Another one is this is number 4, we can't create old experiences. We cannot return to our glory days when we first came into Bright Line Eating, or we lost 100 pounds, or, we want to go back and recreate that experience or something, like if I could just do that now. And I want you to know that I had some pretty profound spiritual experiences in my 12-step program. I was in that program for 33 years. And so I kept, but then we moved and I was in Alabama and it wasn't out there and I found Bright Line Eating. So I kept trying to recreate this thing that happened to me, a burning bush experience that happened to me. And I don't get to do that anymore. We start right where we are, right here, right now in this moment, and we move forward from here. So sometimes it's so funny to me when we try to share our story. We go, well, I came in, and then I lost weight, and then I went out, and then I lost 50 more, and then I went off, and it doesn't even matter. It's just where we're at right now. So I had to stop trying to build the magic. The other one for me is, this might be a little controversial, but it's just me, and it's kind of personal, my opinion. I just hate hacks and tips and strategies and shortcuts. And I know there's a place for all of that in this program, but it's got a shelf life of about 15 minutes. You know, it saves us in that emergency jam, but then we got to have something much more, much deeper than a strategy or hack to help us heal in Bright Line Eating. So no shortcuts. We just follow the fabulous plan. This one is from Laura. And when she said it, I'm like, dang, I just have never forgotten it. It's just short. She said, Laura said, once I start negotiating, I always lose eventually. You know how you start negotiating, you're like, I made it. I did it. That one didn't hurt me. I didn't break my lines, but it gets us eventually. Strong negotiator. I love that. And then one of the greatest things I've learned in the past, I would say 6 months, is to recognize my parts, acknowledge my parts, check in with them. My parts teach me how to return to my center. For me, parts work has been very emotionally healing, and I'm getting better and better at getting to my center. I know some of us think it's woo-woo or whatever, but I don't. I love it. And I love that it's given me a bucket or something to put that emotional part into and get the healing from. Number 8, this was a big lesson for me, you guys. I finally accepted FAS, Food Action Support. Food comes first. I thought if I could just get enough therapy and go to, you know what I mean, get the right therapist and heal everything that's in me, that I wouldn't want to eat anymore. So I kept focusing on the emotional and the spiritual, trying to heal all those parts. But guess what? They need me to be bright in order to heal those parts. So I found out that the best thing to do is follow the bright lines for my food addiction to quiet. And I had it backwards. I was trying to fix everything else and hope that the bright lines would follow. So that brought me up to a lot of peace and surrender. And the last one is, I cannot do less than what it takes. So if I'm doing mastermind groups, getting games teams, daily habit stacks or whatever, how do we get to a point where we say, you know, I think I'm okay. I think I'm just going to set this one off to the side. How do we know which one it is that's keeping us bright and healing us? So in one of my 12-step programs, a recovering alcoholic said, as long as I do today what I did yesterday, then chances are I'll get one more day in recovery. That's the way it feels for me. I don't get to just start laying it down and think I got this thing fixed. So there we have it. When we combine Bright Line Eating and we combine God into our spiritual life, that's where we get recovery and freedom. And I want to close with this. I'm going over too. I'm just going to close with this 4-minute video. It's called My Soul Journey. Write that down. This is Susan in the crack house with God. This is the end.
And I found myself at the biggest turning point of my life. It was August 9th, 1994, and I was in a crack house, and I'd been there for 4 days, smoking. And I had a shaved head and a blonde wig on my head, and there was a couple kicking heroin over to the side. They were sort of twitching and shaking. There was crack rock on the table. There was a bottle of Jack Daniels still on the counter. And I was all sucked up and skinny from the drugs. And what happened in that moment, in that turning point, was nothing more than a visit from reality. Just that moment is exactly as it was. Nothing added to it. Just the moment opened up in front of me, and I became aware of it. And I saw the state of my condition and what had become of my life, and the dreams I'd had of going to Harvard and getting a PhD in astrophysics and you know, contributing something to the world and making something of myself. All of those youthful ambitions were there too. And then who I was and what I was up to and what my life had become was right there in front of my face. And in that moment of seeing the moment for what it was, there was also this knowing so deeply that if I didn't get up and get out of there right then, that's all I was ever going to be. And I felt it, and I knew it. And I wasn't ready to stop living this thing called life. I wasn't ready to give up on my dreams of having a life and doing something with it. And I got my jacket and I walked out the door. And in that moment, I did not believe in God. But I was on a path, unbeknownst to me, that led me later that night to be on a date with a really cute guy that I'd met at a gas station at 3 a.m. And on that first date, he took me to a 12-step meeting for drug and alcohol addiction. And I haven't had a drink or a drug since that day, August 9th, 1994, 22 and a half years ago. And my life turned. Now, I didn't know at that day, I didn't know right then what a turning point that was going to be. I did not know that 20 some odd years later, I'd be talking about that moment as the defining moment of my entire life. I feel like turning points are often like that. You don't necessarily know them when they happen. They build significance over time as you cement the change with new ways of being and new ways of approaching the world. And the biggest change that actually came out of that turning point was me starting to try to develop a belief in God. Because I went to 12-step meetings and they told me that basically I had to, that I was going to die an alcoholic, crack-addicted death if I didn't find a power greater than myself that would restore me to sanity. And I roiled against that idea for a while. And at the same time, the notion that there was something taking care of me was sinking in. It was starting to be apparent through little things, little moments of grace, little like kisses from the universe. I started to see them. I'd never seen them before. And all of a sudden they were all around. All of a sudden my eyes were open to like the little moments of just being touched by God that happen if your eyes are open to see them. And I started to build up a God of experience, of asking God for help and receiving it over and over and over again. And the muscle started to get stronger of like, ask and you shall receive. Things that were hard for me, like enrolling in community college and going back to get my education. And I remember sitting with a calculus textbook in my lap, crying, just asking God for help, wanting some cocaine so badly so I could get through the moment and not picking up.
Simply stated, Susan prayed to God to help her not pick up and not return to her addiction. That is the same prayer I have for each of us today. That we can invite God into our bright line eating journey again and again and again, and trust him to lead us to the people and the decisions that we need in order to become whole and fill in our puzzle pieces and heal from this addiction. Do whatever it takes to strengthen your center so you can come from that centered highest place and be healed. That is where recovery flourishes. Thank you for letting me spend this time with you today.